My hair looked absolutely mental. Look at it.
It is insane. It needs a cut. It's like when it's cut, it looks like an 80s Morrissey vibe, but when it is out of control, turn to the side. Look at that silhouette. A little bit more that way. No, that way. Yeah, no, come
What are
here.
you doing?
The silhouette of it. It's like insane. If it was just a black silhouette, it would look like you've got a wave of ocean coming out of your head. Although my hair actually doesn't look that much better today. Look at the side parting. It's ridiculous. It's very Hitlerite.
The Maddox line.
Incredibly severe. Dani and I were having a talk last night about creativity and about the creative process and how to come at the creative process from a soul-centred perspective and how difficult that can sometimes be, won't we, really? And we would like to talk a little bit about that. Firstly, we were talking about how a lot of people say that they're not creative. I don't know what you think of that, but when I hear people say, oh, I'm not creative, I'm not naturally creative, or I wasn't born with any creative faculties, it just makes me like cringe and kind of want to reach out to them and say creativity is about so much more than having one specific craft and honing it and being commercially successful with it. Like we're all born creative. We think creatively, we like spiritually evolve creatively, we solve problems creatively, we put new ingredients into a meal like randomly.
Not necessarily confined to the medium of art and music and writing. Western society's perception, I think, of creativity, sorry, my hand was out of camera shot there, you can't see that. Our perception is very sort of like within lines, but then if you go to the East, or if you go to third world countries and see what kids have put together there, you know, the way that people can not only make a living for themselves but put together things for amusement out of nothing, that is creativity. And you know, it varies from what part of the world you go to, but I think, you know, there is sort of like the Western perception of creativity is, you know, comes through the classics.
The classic expressions. Like a few people have said to me in my life, oh, I'm so jealous that you were born with this like innate desire to write, because I first started even just pretending to write when I was like 2 and I didn't even know the alphabet. And they say, oh, you were born like to create, and it's not that. It's just that my mode of expression has found a very specific outlet. Whereas most people, a lot of people, they're creative, but they might want to dabble, they might want to move around, they might want to flow where they resonate in that time. And I think that they are pressured by the society we live in to think that creativity is about having this one craft and honing it to perfection.
Yes.
And also potentially having an audience. That's another thing. Like these days, like we are really the last generation of our time that knows what it's like to not be able to make a meal, photograph it, and instantly publish it on Instagram. Like, we didn't even have mobiles. When I was a kid, if I wanted to get together with my friends to go out to the park or whatever, I'd ring their home phone, and if their mum would answer and say, oh, she's not home, and then I would know there's like 10 or 12 places where they might be, and I'd dart about till I found them. Like, kids just don't have to do that anymore, and anything that's on their mind, they can instantly transmit it to the world. They have this instant global community, and they want to be seen. They think it's normal to be seen. If you have a witty thought, you pop it on Facebook. If you had a funny conversation,
there's
you put it on Facebook.
The whole parameters of society has changed really due to the information age and the global village that we all have now, that I'm speaking to you and Cal is speaking through to you. Also, the other day, this is completely random as well, but it also makes you think how fast this technology has gone. I heard somebody or a group of kids the other day ask what VHS was, and that made me feel a bit old. Yeah.
I am so old. They asked what a VHS was.
Yeah.
And you don't even want to throw our videos out.
I don't want to.
You won't even throw our videos out.
Anyway, yeah, this getting.
But it's true. Like nowadays, recognition, showing what you've created is a part of the process, and this is a huge problem for implementing the inner child into your process, because you're constantly audience focused, you're audience driven.
Yeah, you can also lose perspective from that as well, I think, about why you started to create in the first place. I know I have that problem sometimes. Like, I try and live up to a certain set of standards, a certain several production levels, ideals. You want the water, babe?
Oh, yeah, please.
There you go.
Thank you.
And I feel that I could get halfway through and I think that, yeah, am I doing this right? I've heard a certain sound, I want to replicate it like this. But when you've actually started off with the first simple idea in your head of when you approach the canvas, where you pen to paper, you know, if you're cooking food or whatever you like to do, it's so easy to stray from, you know, the truth of the initial conception of one's idea
to express.
You wanted maybe create something very modest like a daffodil, or you wanted something quite intricate. But then the danger is, if when you want something quite modest, it ends up looking like a fucking Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And then when you want to create something that looks like a Christmas tree, it looks like a twig and dog shit.
Because you've been thinking so much about your ego expectation or the outside expectation, or what's the zeitgeist, what are other people doing. Like, so many times I've looked at different collage modalities, different ways of doing it, and I've thought, I want to replicate that. And I don't really want to replicate that. I want to put it into my toolkit. I want to understand that that is a style, that is a comfortable feature that I can or cannot take. I don't want to replicate. But what we were going back to, what we were saying about being audience focused, I feel like sometimes with me, especially since I've started reading my poetic prose to audiences, which is, you know, I'm 29 now, and I haven't started doing that until last year. So it's a really new thing for me. And it makes me think now sometimes, like, it holds me back. Like, for example, I now only want to surrender completely to the process of creative writing if something absolutely grabs me. Because if I start doing it with a view to, like, oh, I need something to read next week at the poetry reading, I need to start creating, then no, because I'm not doing it with my inner child in mind. I'm not succumbing to that feeling of, like, you know, that joy, that unbelievably intense joy that comes from just being one with it. Like, you're not one step back from it. You're not thinking, what does that look like? What does that sound like? Does that show off my ability? Does that sort of... Am I putting my whole skill set into the equation?
Is that my signature?
How will the audience respond to that? Like, that just keeps you in a cage.
It does, yes.
And I think that it can be so dangerous. And like you said, with the information age and stuff, I worry now for the new generation that they won't really... They're likely to not be able to understand that when you are part of the creative process, when you are involved in the creative act, you are alone with that. That is yours. You don't need to worry about, like, I need to get this finished and upload it onto my Facebook fan page, or I need to, like, show everybody what I'm capable of, or I need to have put out this much stuff because then I'll appear prolific and, like, you know, galleries will be interested, or whatever. It'll serve my ego, anything. Like, you need to just be alone with the creative process and shut all of that out, and that is incredibly difficult to do, I think.
Yeah, I do find it quite difficult as well in producing. I'm not very prolific in terms of the content I put out. It often takes me a long time to do one thing, and I have this horrible thing of doing one thing, leaving it for a while, coming back and then thinking it sounds like shit. And that really irritates me. And I know that the only way to go through with that is to keep working on, not regularly like every single day, but at least more regularly than just like once every couple of weeks.
You know what you said about you do something and then you come back to it and you think it's no good? I know that I do that. So, like, if I'm writing a blog post and it's this really long, intricate blog post and I need to go to bed, I'll look at it and I'll think, I'm going to stay up for half an hour and I'm going to finish this. Because if I come back to it tomorrow, it's going to be doubt. Did I want to say that? Is this really... And I'm going to start overthinking it and I'm just going to kill it. Yeah. When really, it should go out. It should be birthed raw because it's my expression. That doesn't happen so much, actually, with stuff that I just do for myself, that I know that nobody is ever going to see. I will finish that most of the time. So again, it's that audience problem, and I think for you that is more of a problem in a sense, because you put out to your creative community, when you make music, you make it to upload it, to introduce it to...
Yeah, there's... all depends as well. Within the field that I'm in, there is not necessarily lots of copying that goes on, but there's particular hooks and styles, and every now and again I'll hear somebody who comes along and they'll blow me away because it's completely different to everybody else. Now, the trick that you would fall into is to then, I want to start copying it like that. By all means, take influences, but I think the most important thing, and I should probably practice what I'm preaching here, is to acknowledge that style, but then think, what can you offer else?
What is essentially you?
Because there is a lot of replication. I noticed one thing, for example, I heard on the track along last year, I think the beginning of summer, and then all of a sudden, tons of producers were all copying a similar style basic because it is one guy who's one producer that did it. And then it made me think also about the whole creative process in general, how things come out and into vogue as well. Like there's a lot of creative energy there, but then people, I think, can get themselves hung up on one thing and it becomes big, you know, and then it begins to fizzle out, such as dubstep, for example. Dubstep was huge in the United Kingdom in 2006, 2007, originated in South London. Massive, and it did become really big, and then it just went to shit because it was just done, it was incorporated into everything,
and I think what happened
overdone.
was, and this could be said with any artistic medium, there's a documentary, it's a 4-part, I've been telling you to watch it for so long. I think it's either called Remix or Life is a Remix, something, one of them, but it's a 4-part documentary. It's well worth watching. I'll leave it in the link below in the down bar. It's basically about how actually nothing is truly original. We have this idea, this perception that like an original thought pops into someone's head and it was totally original. But human consciousness dictates that it can never be original. It's always either a mishmash of different theories and concepts, or it's come from a different theory or concept, but it's been developed. And the problem, like you said, specifically with dubstep, and also with many different forms of artistic medium, is when something comes into vogue, I think nowadays we don't recognise that when we take from that, we take from it to develop it, to add to it, to see where else it can go.
Yeah.
We don't just take it and stop there.
No.
Because that's where things start to get stagnant, and that's where the pool gets dull and grey and nothing moves, kind of thing.
But it has, when things do get into sort of like the mainstream consciousness, it is improved upon, and as technology or as ideas improve upon it, but it has the risk of something turning, again, the Christmas tree analogy, so much so that there's all lots of lovely lights blinking all over it, and it just explodes.
You just
overdo it. Falls over, and it becomes ceaseless pretty to look at. That's not even a good sentence, but you know what I'm trying to say.
That's where, like, you know, like when you
sorry, I'm a bit of a dickhead. You
know, when you like you're doing something, you're making a piece of art, or you're writing something and stuff, and you get to that moment where it's finished. Like Picasso apparently once stood back from a canvas and said, "It's finished, there's nothing else to say," which I think is so poignant. There's nothing else to say. I came here with something to say, and I've said it. Done. Move. Next one. And I think that feeling, you have to trust that feeling. Like Nina, a friend of ours, she says about she draws, and she says that sometimes she stands back from what she's drawn, and she knows it's that perfect moment. I've finished now. Yeah. That's what I came here to say. That's what I came here to do. But she says she doubts it, and ego comes in, and she thinks, how can I improve upon it? How can I embellish it? How can I make it better? And before she knows it, she's effing ruined it. Yeah. And she's like, it drives her crazy. She's just like, damn, why did I do that? Yeah, half an hour ago it was perfect, and now it's not what I wanted to say at all. It's like a parody of something else, or because she didn't trust her profound psycho-spiritual judgment. This moment, this is now, this is it, this is exactly what I came here to say, and she is scared of trusting that. And I think it is because of ego stuff and expectation, and this feeling of like, how can it be better? But like Danielle Laporte said, every masterpiece that's ever been created could have been better.
I can't really love quotes, by the way, just so you're asking. I'm not going to give a quote.
Yeah, you can.
I do quips.
No, he does quotes, but they're all political. And like,
I can't think of any of them off the top
all
of my
political.
head.
Well, they're not relevant right now. Well, they could be relevant.
I don't know.
Can we bring Marxist thought into this discussion?
No, let's not bring politics into the equation.
You
muddy the water too much.
It will, and the water's already pretty damn black.
It's all muddy.
But you know what you were going back to what you were saying about that feeling of you know, that you are in an industry and you work in a creative medium where, you know, your stuff is meant to be listened to. So you have to detach yourself consciously from audience focus. You have to think, no, okay, it will be listened to one day, it will be listened to, but for now it's just me and this track. And I was wondering what you think about how it might be actually important as an artist to always be working on something which is only for you and never intended to be seen. And that's something that you don't do.
No, I guess that is something I don't do. But do you know what? I look at a lot of artists who've said that they've done the same. So a lot of people don't release material, and even okay after, well, not maybe even after their deaths, but case of Michael Jackson. Okay, all of those supposedly unreleased stuff, all of those tapes that were kept behind, and then it was sort of released by somebody making a lot of money from the profit of
whenever somebody dies,
demise,
there's always like these million B-sides and rarities.
Yeah, of course, it all
but it's because they're
out.
so damn prolific, isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, you could take an example of many people, many producers and artists I think I know who don't keep everything, don't put everything out there even. But then there come a point where they think, okay, this is something I've done, or you might find something very rare and it gets leaked out, and more often than not, it's not really liked by a lot of people. Aphex Twin, for example, is as some of you might know, is a very popular, intelligent dance music producer. He's done quite a lot of stuff, and some of it not very pleasing on the ear. And I did hear a rare B-side.
It's like brown noise.
Brown noise.
Designed to make you vomit, kind of thing.
It was literally
but it's
just
an experience.
But it's experience.
It's an experience. It makes you feel something. God, I hate to feel indifferent towards art. I want art to either make me fall in love or have an orgasm or completely disgust me. Like Francis Bacon. Francis Bacon's paintings make me feel incredibly uncomfortable, like I'm crawling out of my skin. And I love that. I love his ability to make me feel sick. I think it's a fantastic skill.
I enjoy any kind of artist who makes me feel sick.
I want art to be a visceral experience for me.
Yeah, like when I took you to Boomtown to see Current Value, and you didn't really enjoy that much.
I can't remember Current Value. Oh, like the really hardcore. Yeah, it was.
Again,
there was so much sub-bass frequency, and it was making my vibration feel incredibly odd. Yeah.
But that in itself, though.
But that's what you liked about it.
That's what I liked about it. It
almost makes you feel like
scared,
wrong. Yeah,
scared.
It makes you scared. And I appreciate that is a thing for you, because it's a thing for me too. I want art to take me somewhere. I saw a discussion with a panel of female poets. I think Jeanette Winterson was one of them, and they were talking about Anne Sexton and how they will read Sylvia Plath's work even though it's dark and it deals with dangerous themes, but they can't read Anne Sexton's work. It makes them feel actually uncomfortable, distressed, disgusted. It's too dark, it's too raw. And I remember sitting there thinking, what? Surely that is... You want to buy a ticket and stay on the platform? I want to get on the train. I want to go. If she's willing to give me her affairs and her, self-injury and her abortions and all that filth, if she wants to make me feel that, if she wants to take me with her, I'll go. I'll buy that ticket and I'll take that ride. You know, that's what art's all about. But yeah, it's not, Current Value.
Bill Hicks quote
a bit too much for me. Buy the ticket and take the ride. That's not Bill Hicks. Bill Hicks is Life is a Ride. Buy the ticket and take the ride. No. Life is a Ride is Bill Hicks. Buy the ticket and take the ride is in fact, Hunter S. Thompson.
Oh, it was one of the two.
One of our spiritual grandfathers.
Yeah, I've sort of thought Hunter S. Thompson, and I thought,
buy the ticket, take the ride. And Bill Hicks' Life is just a ride.
Life is just a ride. Indeed, I get the two confused.
True. Indeed, that's true.
Yeah.
So... yeah, I really feel like there is some value in artists actually endeavouring to create something that nobody is ever going to hear, or nobody is for that time, because it actually frees you. Like, I remember when Deftones brought out an album that had a second disc with B-sides and rarities, and it was just stuff that they'd never put out, they'd never put on an album. It was covers, it was bits and pieces, weird little tunes.
I think I missed that.
Oh, it's just like stunning. And I remember thinking then, like, they might have always intended to put this stuff out, but the fact that they planned as a band to never put this stuff out gave them quite a lot of creative freedom. Because you don't have that audience focus. You can just be like, this is never intended to be seen by human eyeballs. And I think when you use art for emotional healing and for spiritual growth, that is all that you need to think of, is that this is between me and me right now. This is me connecting to source perspective, me getting out of my mind, me getting into my mind. This is me evolving and developing, like, and you need to be able as well to let go. Like, the only way to really discover anything about yourself through art, if it's shadow work, if it's release work, whatever it is if you let go, and then all of this archetypal deep, like, collective unconscious imagery will come up and you'll go, whoa. I think that's why automatic writing is so popular, you know, where you just write and you're not supposed to think. You have to time yourself.
I have tried that, but it doesn't tend to work. Odd things come out.
Exactly. Then it does work.
But really mundane things, though.
That's it working.
I think I wrote carrot paperclip backwards cat flat.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
You liar.
In grandma's drain pipe with a purple
Up
elephant.
the trousers on a Wednesday.
Farting dragons and unicorn shit.
Upshot cheese grater, unicorn, French fries.
Rainbow trousers.
But whatever. Like, I did some automatic writing the other night, whenever. And you can start completely open with no intention, or you can start with one area that you want to focus on. I started with the word base chakra, or root chakra, because I wanted to explore beneath, you know, this comfortable little Western image of the colour is red and, you know, it means material stability and oneness with the body. I know that chakras are these multi-dimensional, fast-moving cyclone, like, marriages of energy, and that the colours that were assigned to them later were assigned, you know, by modern Western thinkers. The chakras are, like, infinitely potently deep and can mean such different things to different people, and they invite, like, spiritual experience in a really profound way. So I did automatic writing for 20 minutes on the theme of root chakra, and the stuff that came out was incredible. Like, because you have to go into a trance. You're not allowed to stop moving your hand. You must go into a trance. You've got to stop thinking. You've got to get into no mind. And the stuff that comes out, like, is just archetypal, vast, epic stream of consciousness, collective unconscious stuff. And there is weird stuff in there, and there's funny stuff in there. And you look back and you think, what the hell? Where did that come from? Some of it's really dark and some of it's just actually quite humorous, but it's that letting go, and when you're audience focused, you can't do that. And, you know, the other thing that we were talking about yesterday was how dangerous perfectionism really is. Like, when you procrastinate, you accuse yourself of laziness or whatever, and you tell yourself that it's because you're no good or it's because you're lazy or whatever. But I think that laziness and like procrastination has these very deep underlying causes to it, and I think a lot of people don't recognise how deeply it's linked to perfectionism, how deeply it's linked to this notion that you can't let go of the vision of what it's supposed to be, or the vision of how it's going to make you feel. And you have to let go of the vision in order to make the real thing. And the real thing will be different, inevitably. It will be different. It's not going to be what you set out. It's not going to be what you intended. And you really need to get comfortable with that, because that's a fact, isn't it, really?
Yeah. But something that I struggle as well to hold on to and want to, well, not even hold on to let go really would be the better thing to do. And having an idea in my head, working on it, and then as long as one thing is there, one or two things are there, that's what I need to focus on really. Everything else is superfluous to the outcome, as long as
that you need that starting point. Like, this is a problem that people have when they go into one thing and then they abandon it partway through and say, no, I can do this, or no, wait a minute, I can do that, and then I can come back to that, or I can link them together. Like, people are scared to just zoom in on one thing. This is my focus point, and this is the one thing that I have to hang on to at this time. I'm not going to pay attention to the end point and what needs to happen and what I hope will happen. I'm just going to start here. Like, so for you, it would be like, right, I'm just going to begin with one word, a key word that will describe, like, what I'm trying to express. So blue, or charged, or hedonism, or whatever. That one word, and this baseline. That's it. And then everything else I'm going to allow to organically flow.
Approach as well is obviously important, the way you approach things. I mean, because I find it might be the same for, or different for most other artists, but I tend to always start on one thing. And fellow music producers here, if you're into electronic music, most people will start with a kick because it is a solid foundation. But then the other day I was thinking, well, actually, what happens if I start with something very simple like a hi-hat, or with a synth, or maybe even the bass line, or something other than that. And then the same for artists as well. How would you go? When I say artist, I mean like painting and things. Excuse my
anyone who
ignorance.
wants to get into the creative endeavor in one way or
Yeah.
another, like, start small, start manageable. Like, don't freak yourself the hell out, because you will scare yourself out of getting started.
Well, just push yourself out of your comfort zone when you're starting with something, maybe.
Mm.
In terms of where you normally start, that's what I'm trying to say here. And that could be the key to actually breaking sort of like the procrastination, or the angle with that, am I really happy with this? Because you would have started off on a different road. And when you start on the same road all the time, it's like, okay, yeah, I've got to get to here to get down there, left at the roundabout, right at the junction. And finally, okay, right, I can stop in here, grab this, and I can grab that. And then before you know it, because you've gone on through the same process of doing one thing after each time to get a different product, I think that's maybe what makes people become stagnant. But if you were to start somewhere else, it would inevitably lead you to somewhere else.
Yeah, just like, don't think about where is it leading me, what needs to happen. Just literally think. Don't take the pressure off of yourself completely, and just start very small. And also, like, when people are daunted by the mammoth size of the task that they want to accomplish, or the thing that they want to do, like, for example, if you're writing a novel or whatever, I always think the best thing to do is just believe that sometimes any action is better than non-action. Just start, begin. Just begin anywhere. Write a sentence, and if it's taken you every little piece of strength to write that sentence, if you've had to get over so much emotional resistance to just write that one sentence, congratulate yourself for writing it. Literally, don't be like, oh god, no, there's so many more thousand sentences before I get to the end of the novel. Pat yourself on the back, talk to yourself, encourage yourself, and just be like, God, it's taken me weeks to get here, to actually sit down at this desk and put something down. Like, I've really shifted into a new paradigm in this way. This is great. Be excited, be enthusiastic about it. I think that's really important, and remember as well that a lot of the time illumination is in the act. Like, you can sit around for the rest of your life thinking, I need the right circumstances, I need the right opportunities, I need to learn more, I need to read more, I need to absorb more, I need to consume more. Something needs to happen in order for me to create. It needs to be next week before I can create. But actually,
always be the next day.
Exactly, and it always will be. You know what? Your thoughts are a choice. Your thoughts are always a choice. And if you think that you have a belief about yourself, beliefs are just jumped up thoughts. They're just thoughts with attitude. They're just amplified thoughts, and they're thoughts that you've chosen to amplify. You can change them anytime you like. And if you tell yourself you can't do that, then you're just digging your heels in. Like, you don't have to believe that you're not good enough, or that you won't finish, or and don't look at your personal history either and make that into an excuse, like, oh, I never really finish anything like that, so probably won't do this time, so there's no point in starting. I've tried that before and it's not really my thing. Then find another thing. Tell yourself, instead of saying to yourself, I never do that, so why would I do it now? You can say, I've never done that before, I'm going to do it now. Like, why not trade self-loathing or self-denial for self-belief and self-encouragement? Like, why not? Because as the Scottish say, you'll be a long time dead. You will be a long time dead. Like, grab it now while you're in this vessel and you have the opportunity to do that. And final thing that I wanted to say actually was to have talks like the talk we've just had. If you have a creative block, or if you do feel that you are a creator in some tangible sense already, but you don't know where it's going to go, or you feel like you're lonely in that process, and you feel like you need to talk to other creatives, do it. I remember last summer, me and Lou were sat out in the back garden at Lexi's, and we're talking for like an hour and a half. My friend Lou's very creative. She was in advertising for a long time. She was a creative director. So her job was to come up with beautiful, inspired, outrageous ideas which fit the zeitgeist and which, you know, fit with the quirky products that she was trying to like interpret to the community. And we would just sit around and talk for like ages and ages about the blocks, the joy of creativity, the insecurity, the imposter syndrome, the self-sabotage, the like everything, procrastination, perfectionism. And you know what, like, you don't like come up with all the answers by the end, you don't put the world to rights, but you just feel better. Like, you felt better last night after we talked about it, like, okay, I feel better now, I've bounced off somebody, you know. And you know, that's a nice thing, that's a good thing.
Yeah. Lou's in Australia now, so if you're watching Lou,
if you're watching Lou, screw you for leaving me in the northern
and you,
hemisphere.
Christy.
And you, Christy. Right. Are we done?
I think, are we done?
This is probably something we'll talk about again.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you what, you lot decide what we talk on next time. How about that?
No, because they might say Bertrand Russell.
Say Bertrand Russell, yeah. Say Bertrand Russell.
I think we should talk. You know, I'm really into talking about the creative process and how to approach it in a way that involves the inner warrior and the inner child, because I think that we have become trained almost. We've become programmed to believe that art is supposed to involve the ego, and it's not that art is supposed to be completely separate from the ego, because that would be quite wrong. Like, but you're not supposed to invite it through the door and say, hey, take over my process, suck my joy. Like, you know, to just take the joy out of it. Yeah, throw it right out the window. I want to be insecure, paranoid, restrained, and unable to express myself completely. Thanks, ego. Done a great job there. Like, you know, that's not the way it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be talking actively as a creative community about how to get past that. And how to really flourish. And I do think one thing that we've concluded here is that I think it's quite right for people who do produce for any kind of audience or for any kind of desired future audience to work on stuff that only they themselves will ever see. I do.
Yes.
And I think
but
that's...
you've got to break the barriers first. I feel
you got to break the barriers.
You got to break the barriers, because if you do that, then you'll be you can misinterpret that and thinking, okay, I'm just going to create something for myself that no one will hear, and then you can end up 2 years down the time creating that self your thing that no one's ever going to hear, and no other buggers can hear it. So you need to push through first, start putting things out, and then when you feel comfortable within yourself, and think, okay, yeah, I might just do something that's just for me.
No, I disagree. I think most people start with stuff that's just for them, in fact.
I couldn't do that. That's me personally. I just feel I couldn't do that, because I want to show people, because I rarely put things out in the first place.
Yeah, but it doesn't ever, like, the thing that people need to understand about art is there doesn't ever have to be an audience at all. Ever. You can create for yourself every day until the day you die. You can die and your grandchildren can find like 50 books of experimental collage.
I guess Rusty does that a lot, actually.
Oh yeah, I love doing it. I love it. And it's not because I'm precious or I'm jealous over it or I'm selfish or I'm paranoid or I'm insecure. It's because I know that stuff's just between me and me, and it's my workings out. It's how I see what's going on that I can't actually put words to, and I stand back and say, this is why I read Jung, this is why I came to understand that I'm fishing in my psyche, the deep ocean of my psyche, and I just pulled something up, and all I had to do was let loose and be free. But anyway, we're at the 33-minute mark now, so high five, well done for being on the channel again. Much love, guys, keep creating.
Ta-ra, enjoy yourselves. I'll see you soon.